Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Maximilian, and I am going to be bringing you another episode of Horror Movie Review today. Now, we've done a couple of different movies already, and I'm jumping around the genres so that way I can incorporate all of the classics, so that way we can build up to modern takes on these movies and see how the genre of horror overall has evolved with time. Today, I'm going to be discussing in depth the Amityville Horror, the original that was released in 1979. This movie was directed by Stuart Rosenberg, written by Sandor Stern and Jay Anson, who Jay Anson was the author of a book about the George Lutz and his family's experiences in the mid-70s, 1975, when they lived through this story. Now, we have a pretty wide cast here, starring James Brolin as George Lutz, Margot Kidder as Kathy Lutz, Rod Steiger as Father Delaney, Don Stroud as Father Bolin, Natasha Ryan as Amy, K.C. Martell as Greg, Mino Pellucci as Matt, Michael Sachs as Jeff, Helen Shaver as Carolyn, and Amy Wright as Jackie. Strap in, and just a fair warning, if you have not seen this movie yet, please go ahead and stop right now and go ahead and check out this movie, the 1979 version, because I will be discussing spoilers. Now, let's get creepy and discuss this horror film. Now, excellently, we will go ahead and proceed on. I'm going to first off discuss the plot of the film, which will, again, forewarning, give away some spoilers if you have not seen it before. The plot is definitely a very classic, well-known story, especially in paranormal communities, seeing as this movie was based on a true story that took place in Long Island, New York. The family purchases a Dutch colonial-style home and moves in the mid-1970s. 1975 was the time that they had moved into this home. The story of the Lutzes, as a family, they had moved into this house that was previously the location of a very brutal slaughter that took place there. The events of the murder took place a year prior in 1974 by Ronald DeFeo Jr. Now, the story with that is that he claimed that he got possessed, and he killed his parents, 2 sisters, and 2 brothers. Due to the previous violence within the home, the price when it was on sale was much lower than it would have typically been. So the family purchases the home for $80,000 versus the normal appraisal at the time of about $120,000. So they definitely got it for a steal, which is very helpful for a young family in any time era. Despite this disclosure of the history in the home, the real estate agent was upfront with them about it. George does not seem fazed or even very religious for the most part, whereas Kathy, his wife, is at least, a nominal Catholic. She's not very devout, but she at least has her beliefs in Catholicism. They, after moving in, invite a priest, Father Delaney, in to bless the home, which, while he's there doing the blessing, he encounters some complications, including a room that fills up with flies, outside of the normal season for flies, dealing with stomach illness, and later blisters all over his hands. And even after that, he suffers further maladies, such as he experiences a really violent car accident, and ultimately he ends up going blind and has a mental breakdown. George, as the storyline continues going on, continues to grow more sullen, more detached from reality and things that are going on, and he becomes obsessed with spending his time splitting logs and keeping the fireplace going, as he continually is battling with cold spots in the home, which anybody that knows anything about paranormal, that's typically not a very good sign. If you're dealing with cold spots, that's usually a very negative entity, negative force. Now, as time continues to go on, things start happening to the kids. Like, one of the sons suffers a smashed hand as a windowsill just smashes down on top of his hand. One of the daughters, she begins having a friendship with an imaginary friend named Jody, and strange things just continue to happen. They, at one point during the nighttime, get a sight of glowing red eyes outside. The dog starts getting obsessed with a room in the basement that seems to be a hidden room, and things just continue to deteriorate for the family. George's home surveying business begins suffering from his absences. He's really detached from reality, and he's missing a lot of work, and it's really starting to take an effect on the whole family. Others outside of the family even begin to notice weird things about the home. For example, George's business partner's wife comments while they're visiting that there's a strange energy about the home. And another person, Kathy's aunt, who happens to be a nun, flees the home and suffers with stomach illness. She vomits after, running out of the home. So, putting all that aside, the Lutz family continues living there, and it progresses even further where they start to notice a black bubbling substance coming out of the plumbing and down nail holes in the walls late at night, looking kind of very much like drying blood or coagulating blood. After this, Kathy starts getting concerned about George because he's consistently waking up at exactly 3:15 a.m. with an obsessive desire to check out the boathouse. After one night, Kathy herself suffers nightmares and has visions of the fates of the previous occupants, seeing all of them getting murdered by DeFeo Jr. So George and Kathy, they start doing research on the home and discover that it was built on top of a tribal burial ground. Kind of ominous. But they also discover that there was a devil worshipper that once lived on the property. So at that point, it just escalates even further. The climax comes where things just go to complete heck. And finally, one night, everything just goes off the wall, and it drives the family out of the home late at night in the pouring rain. Not even concerned about their possessions. They just, as a family, get in the car, back out of the driveway, and leave. The movie itself ends with a caption that states that the Lutzes now live in another state. Now, with all that being said, and breaking down the synopsis of the plot, my review. So this movie definitely feels like a slow burn. It starts off very slowly, but it does good with character development, making you grow kind of an attachment to the family and sympathizing with them in regards to their circumstances and what's happening. It does have very dark and ominous moments throughout the movie. It does have good suspense. And overall, even though the scares and jump scares are not a very big prevalent aspect of this movie, it is very ambiotic. It's very good at pulling you in, and it's just a very classic ghost haunting story. Now, all things considered, I would consider rating this movie at 8.5 out of 10. Again, it is very difficult to get a 10 out of 10 from me, just because, expectations are high, and it's got to fit the bill for a lot of different categories, from character development to the scares to the storyline to just a whole bunch of different things, the atmosphere and lighting and all that good stuff. So this is a solid film for being a late 70s film, so I am very comfortable and happy with rating this one an 8.5 out of 10. Please be sure to let me know your thoughts if you've seen this movie, what you think about it. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section below. I thank you for tuning in for another episode of Horror Movie Review. These are planned to go out on Fridays and Mondays, so stay tuned for the next horror movie review, and let's keep it spooky. As always, please be sure, if you're not already, to hit that subscribe button, to hit that heart button, and to leave a comment below. Let me know if there's any movies that you would like me to review, or even just say hello. I definitely appreciate you, and have a fantastic day.